everyone. I am Teacher Rogie and I will be your teacher in Applied Economics. Our lesson for today are revisiting economics as a social science, economics as an applied science, and basic economic problems and the socio-economic development in the 21st century. General objectives. In this chapter, you will define economics, determine its field, the microeconomics and macroeconomics, describe the different resources of economics. Skills you will use, define the basic terms economics, resourcefully use the different resources in the production of goods and services. And why is this important? It will help us understand the overall economic situation on individual matters and the insights about the overall economic situation on the entire economy.
The typical first-year student walks into his first economics class with very little idea of what economics is. He might have heard something like, economics is the study of money, or economics is another word for accounting, or economics is hard, don't take that class. But none of those are true. Economics is the study of the use of scarce resources that have alternative uses. That's the classic definition of economics. Basically, there are people, and people need resources to fulfill their desires. These resources cannot be infinite, but the desires can be, so people need to make choices about how to use their scarce resources. Economists study these choices. All economic questions fall into one of two categories, positive and normative. Positive economics describes what is, and normative economics argues for what ought to be. So a question like, why do people use money, is a positive question, and should people use money is a normative question. A general rule of thumb is that if your economic model has no value judgments, it's positive economics. Whereas if it does have value judgments, it's normative economics. Since to tell someone what he ought to do, you first have to judge what is best for him. Economics is also divided into microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics studies the behavior of individual agents and markets, while macroeconomics studies the behavior of the entire economy. Economists also have their own branch of statistics called econometrics that specialize to analyzing economic data. Since economic data usually comes from the real world and not from controlled experiments, econometrics faces mathematical challenges that other fields might not. The tools economists have developed to study human behavior have broad uses outside of what we would traditionally consider economics. Economists study not only markets, but things like crime, war, the family, religion, culture, politics, law, and even genetics. That's why it's not unusual to see papers by psychologists, sociologists, criminologists, political scientists, anthropologists, biologists, neuroscientists, or legal scholars being co-authored by economists.
What is economics? We all know that economics came from the Greek word oikos, meaning household, and nomos, meaning management or household management. Another meaning of economics is it is the wise production and use of wealth to meet the demands or needs of the people. Another is the study of social behavior, guiding in the allocation of scarce resources to meet the unlimited needs and desires of the individual members of a given society. Economics in different perspective. According to Feliciano R. Fajardo, economics is the proper allocation and efficient use of available resources for the maximum satisfaction of human wants. And according to William D. Nordhaus, economics is the study of how people choose to use scarce resources to produce valuable commodities and to distribute these commodities to consumption. Another meaning of economics, according to Gerardo P. Sicat, economics is a study which deals with how individuals and society generally make choices that involve the use of scarce resources from any alternative wants that need to be satisfied. According to Webster Dictionary, economics is the social science that studies the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Economics, according to Paul Samuelson, it is the study of how people and society end up choosing, with or without use of money, to employ scarce resources that could have alternative uses to produce commodities among various persons and groups in society. And according to Hall and Loberman, economics is the study of choice under the condition of scarcity. There are types of economics. Number one, household economics. Most common use of economics is for the family. At this level, anyone who knows the economics principles will be able to improve the meaning of the household. Number two is business economics. When a person or group of persons begins to work, they come under the system of business economics in their workplace. In this type, you deal with the rent, salary, profits, and others. Number three is national economics. Economic factors of problems affecting the whole nation. Deals with the management of income, expenditures, wealth, or resources of a nation. And number four is international economics, the highest stage of economic activities involving the business of one country with other countries like trade, tourism, exchange rates. Some of economic activities are: number one, earning money; number two, buying goods and services; number three, depositing and withdrawing money in bank. Economics as a social science. Economics is classified as a social science because it deals with the study of human's life and how he lives with other men. Economics is regarded as a social science because it uses scientific methods to build theories that can help explain the behavior of individuals, groups, and organizations. Macroeconomics discusses the following: the gross national product, level of employment, national income, general level of prices. And if we want to further analyze what is macroeconomics is, let us read employment and income analysis. Microeconomics, on the other hand, deals with the economic behavior of individual units such as the consumers, the firms, and the landowners. Macroeconomics deals with the economic behavior of the whole economy or its aggregates, composed of individual units, and those aggregates are the business, the government, and the households. Microeconomic, on the other hand, discusses the following: the price of rice, number of works in a certain firm, the income, expenditures of PLDT. To further analyze what is microeconomic is, let us read the price theory. One of the division of economics is production. Production refers to the process of producing or creating goods needed by the households to satisfy their needs. So we have the factors of production, which is also called the inputs, the goods and services, which is also called the output. What is good? A good is something you can see and feel. It is something you can use and also called tangible goods. We have classification of goods. Consumer goods are goods for the ultimate consumption of the consumers. Take for example the toothpaste, the bath soap, etc. Another is the essential goods that are used to satisfy the basic needs of men. For example, the food and the medicine. Still another is the capital goods or industrial goods, which are used in the production of other goods and services. Examples: buildings, machineries, and equipments. Luxury goods are goods man may do without but may give comfort and satisfaction. Examples of this are the perfumes, cakes, chocolates, expensive cars. Economic goods are goods which are useful and scarce, with value attached to them, and the price has to be paid for their use. Example of this is, if a good is so abundant and it can satisfy everyone's needs without anybody paying for it, then that good is free. The air is free, but the air from an aircon is an economic good. What is service? A service is something done for someone else. Sometimes people are paid for their service, sometimes they are not. It is also called intangible goods. Producer is someone who makes or provides goods or services. Example, the farmer and the barbers. Consumer is someone who uses or buys goods and services. Examples, shopping and haircuts.
Hello, boys and girls! Today, we will learn about producers and consumers. Have you ever gone shopping at a grocery store? You might see lots of fruits, vegetables, breads, and meats. Did you ever wonder, where does all this food come from? Well, let's find out. Look at the produce section. Fruits and vegetables are grown by farmers. This means that farmers are producers. A producer is someone who makes something. Fruits and vegetables are picked by farmers and put into boxes. The boxes are put on a delivery truck and shipped to local grocery stores. Then, the produce is put on display for people to buy. People who buy things are called consumers. Let's look at another example. Tailors make clothing. They are producers. The clothing is sent to the store and is bought by consumers. Let's review. Step 1. Producers make something for people to buy, like food and clothing. Step 2. The items are sent to a store. Step 3. They are put on display for people to see. Step 4. Consumers buy them. Are you a producer or a consumer? Think about it. Thanks for watching. Goodbye!
From the Division of Economics, number 1, production refers to the process of producing or creating goods needed by the household to satisfy their needs. Number 2, distribution refers to the marketing of goods and services to different economic outlets. Number 3, exchange refers to the process of transferring goods and services to a person in return for something, and the medium of exchange is usually money. Number 4, consumption refers to the proper utilization of economic goods. However, goods and services could not be utilized unless you pay for it. Hence, consumption could also be spending money for goods and services. And number 5, public finance. It pertains to the activities of the government regarding taxation, borrowings, and expenditures. It deals with the efficient use and fair distribution of public resources. Economic resources are the factors of production for goods and services. Factors of production are the so-called inputs: labor, land, capital, and entrepreneur. One of the input of production is labor, also called human resources. Labor refers to all human efforts, be it mental or physical, that help to produce satisfying goods and services. In return, he earns an income in forms of wages and salaries. Labor is a flexible factor of production. Workers can be allocated to different areas of the economy for producing goods and services. Another input of production is land. These resources consist of free gifts of nature, which includes soil, rivers, lakes and oceans, forests, mountains, mineral resources. Land is considered an economic resources because it includes all natural and physical resources and has a price attached to it. We usually pay for it through rent or lease. Land is a limited resource, while physical land is a fixed resource. Another input of production is capital. We have two economic definitions of capital. Number 1, capital can represent the monetary resources used to purchase natural resources. Example, companies use capital to buy land and other goods. Number 2, capital represents the major physical assets of individual and companies use. when producing goods and services. Example of this, the buildings, vehicles, equipments, and the like. Entrepreneurs, a French word which means enterpriser. Entrepreneur is an organizer and coordinator of other factors of production: land, labor, and capital. He uses his initiative, talent, and resourcefulness to create economic goods. Before we end our lesson, let us summarize the discussions that we had. We all learned that economics from the Greek word oikos and nomos, which means household management. There are also some economists who gave their own interpretation of what economics are. They are Feliciano Fajardo, William Nordhaus, Gerardo Sicat, Paul Samuelson, Hall and Loberman, and lastly from the Webster Dictionary. We also discussed the microeconomics, which deals with the buying behavior of an individuals, while macroeconomics is the economic behavior of the whole economy. We have also discussed microeconomics, which deals the buying behavior of an individuals, while macroeconomics deals with the economic behavior of the whole economy. Another topic we have discussed is the division of economics. So we have the production, which involves the goods and services, or also called the tangible and intangible goods. Another is distribution, which means marketing of goods and services. The public finance, which includes activities of the government concerning the borrowings and expenditures. Another is the consumption, is the proper utilization of the economic goods. And lastly, the exchange, which is the process of transferring economic goods and services. Another topic we had discussed is all about the resources of economics. So we have the four factors of production: the labor, the land, the capital, and the entrepreneurs. I hope you've learned a lot for this day. Goodbye and God bless. General objectives. In this chapter, you will discuss why economics is an applied science, understand how applied economics work, determine the uses of economics as applied science, skills you will use, analyze why economics is an applied science, explain how economics affect our daily lives and why it is important. This is to understand the buying behavior, spending habits of the people, and the overall economic situation of the entire economy. Applied economics. The term applied economics is believed to have started 200 years ago in the writings of two economists, Jean-Baptiste Say and John Stuart Mill. Economics as a science. It is a science because it is an organized body of truth, coordinated, arranged, and systematized with reference to certain general laws and principles. Observation, formulation of theories, gathering of data, experimentation, conclusion, and generalization. Economic analysis seeks to explain economic events using some kind of logic based on a set of systematic relations. It is a social science because the subject matter of economics is people or societies and their behavior, unpredictable in nature.
Economics as a social science. Economics is a social science. Social sciences basically study societies. Economists are interested in studying people and their behavior, and this is what we mean by the social nature of economics. There are two main branches or fields in macroeconomics. There's microeconomics and macroeconomics. Microeconomics studies individual or groups of economic agents. So studies concerning consumers, producers, a market or maybe a group of markets, a specific industry or a group of industries, etc. These all fall under the realm of microeconomics. So studies related to profits, prices, revenue, costs, demand, supply, consumer behavior, producer behavior, government taxation of harmful products or government subsidization of beneficial products, studies related to looking at the wages of teachers or lawyers or doctors, all these fall under the realm of microeconomics. Whenever the scope of your study covers the economy as a whole, whether it's a local economy, like the economy of a specific city, regional economy, like a state economy, the economy of your state, or the national level, whichever level, as long as your study covers the scope of the economy as a whole, you have entered the realm of macroeconomics. So certain topics that macroeconomists or economists study under macroeconomics include unemployment, inflation, economic growth, inequality, and the distribution of income. So remember, whenever the scope of your study covers individuals or groups of economic agents, you are in the realm of microeconomics. Whenever the scope of your study covers the economy as a whole, whether it's a local economy, regional economy, or national economy, you have entered the realm of macroeconomics. There are 9 central concepts in economics. These are the 9 central concepts that economists use as a lens in their economic analyses. The first one is scarcity, right? The main reason economics exists as a science is that resources are scarce. People have unlimited needs and wants, but the resources available to satisfy those needs and wants are limited. There's a problem of scarcity. Now, because of the problem of scarcity, people have to make choices. Economic agents cannot basically have everything they want. They can't satisfy all their needs and wants because they are seemingly unlimited. So they have to make choices. Now, this exists on the levels of all economic agents, on the levels of consumers, workers, producers, the government. The government has to choose how much tax revenue it's going to collect. What is it going to do with this tax revenue? Will it fund more schools and hospitals, or will it invest in the military, right? So it exists on all levels in society. Now, choices are either guided by efficiency, all right? Economists study efficiency. How can you make the most of your scarce resources to satisfy the biggest amount of needs and wants? So economists also study efficiency and how can people make choices that maximize efficiency. Economists are also interested in studying equity. How is it that because resources are scarce, how is it that resources can be distributed in a way that is more fair? Not necessarily equal, but more fair, where everybody gets based on what they need. Economists are also interested in studying economic well-being. Whenever economic agents make choices because of their scarce resources, they are pursuing their economic well-being one way or another. Okay, either it's thinking about their present or future income, thinking about their happiness, thinking about their well-being. Economic agents, their choices are guided by their desire to pursue their economic well-being. Economists are also interested in studying sustainability. Now, because resources are scarce and some resources are non-renewable, you have to balance between meeting the needs of the current generation, but still allowing future generations to meet their needs. If you are using resources at a rate where future generations will not have access to these resources, you are basically using the resources unsustainably. So economists are interested in studying sustainability. Economists are interested in studying change, the causes and the consequences of change. When prices change, or when producers change their behavior, or when consumers change their behavior, or when the government decides to raise taxes on a specific product. Again, economists study change and the causes and the consequences of this change in the short term and the long term. Economists are also interested in looking at the interdependence between economic agents. Because economics is a social science, all economic agents are interdependent. Okay, the economic system is very complex, and the actions of one person rarely just affect that person. They always more than often they have an effect on the rest of society. Economists are also interested in studying intervention. When should the government intervene in the economy, or should the government have full control of the economy? And in what way should the government intervene? Say, for example, people are over-consuming harmful products like cigarettes. Should the government intervene? Well, how should the government intervene? Should it pass laws to ban the smoking of cigarettes, or maybe raise the age, or maybe tax cigarettes? So economists are also interested in studying intervention. These are the 9 central concepts that basically guide what economists study. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next concept video.
Applied economics. It is the study of economics in relation to real-world situations. It is the application of economic principles and theories to real situations and trying to predict what the outcomes might be. It is the study of observing how theories work in practice. What is the importance of applied economic application? Number 1, applying economics to a company, household, or a country helps sweep aside all attempts to dress up a situation so that it will appear worse or better than it actually is. Applied economics becomes a powerful tool to reveal the true and complete situation in order to come up with things to do. Example, applied economics can assess the profits of a certain company. The results can help the executives to do some strategies in order to boost its sales. Number 2 importance of applied economic application is applied economics acts as a mechanism to determine what steps can reasonably be taken to improve current economic situation. To examine its aspect, one can strengthen areas where performance is weak. Example, purchase of goods and services, usage of raw materials, and division of labor with entity. Example, firm, company, and agency. Another importance of applied economic application is Applied economics can teach valuable lessons on how to avoid the recurrence of a negative situation or at least minimize the impact. To review what steps were taken to improve and correct similar situations and continue good strategies to keep the economy flowing in a correct direction. What is econometrics? Econometrics is the application of statistical and mathematical theories to economics for the purpose of testing hypotheses, forecasting future trends. Example, economists connect the amount individuals spend on consumer goods to disposable income and wealth, and expect consumption to increase as disposable income and wealth increase. That is, the relationship is positive. The result of econometric are compared and contrasted against real-life examples. Theoretical plus applied is equal to econometrics. Is econometrics same as economics? The difference between economics and econometrics is that economics is a social science, the study of resource allocation, distribution and consumption, of capital and investment, and of management of the factors of production, while econometrics is economics, the branch of economics that applies statistical methods to the empirical study of economic theories and relationships. Importance of econometric. Econometric is interesting because it provides the tools, the theories and models to enable us to extract useful information about important economic policy issues from the available data. Students who gain expertise in econometrics will also find that they enhance their job prospects. Before we end up, let us sum up our topic for today. Economics is a social science. Why? Because it deals with the study of humans' life and how we live with others. It is also using a scientific method that build theories and explain the behavior of individuals and groups. Another is the importance of economics as an applied science. Why it is important? Because it can assess the profits of a company. It examines the strengths and weaknesses of the company, and we can know what steps to take to improve and correct the direction of the company. Is it right? And lastly, the use of econometrics for economic purposes. Always bear in mind what we have discussed, and may you have a good day. Goodbye. General objectives. What you will learn: identify the basic economic problem, explain how applied economics can be used to solve economic problem. In this chapter, you will construct framework and solve problems on economic activities. Why it is important? Because economics can be a tool to solve economic problems. Basic economic problems. If there are central economic problem that is present across all countries without any exemption, then it is the problem of scarcity. What is scarcity? Scarcity refers to the gap between limited resources and theoretically limitless wants. This situation requires people to make decisions about how to allocate resources efficiently in order to satisfy basic needs and as many additional wants as possible. Scarcity refers to the tension between our limited resources and our unlimited wants and needs.
So, what is scarcity? Scarcity is when there are unlimited wants and limited resource to satisfy those wants. Let's take a real-life example for this. Jim has $30 to study. He can either study chemistry or economics. But since he has only $30 he can only study economics. So, in this case, money is a scarce good.
Sir, why are some scarce resources expensive than the others?
It's because some goods are more scarce than others. For example, shark meat is more expensive than fish meat, because shark is more scarce compared to fish.
Sir, then what in the world is not scarce?
Oh, Jim, it's so simple. Things such as air and students like you are not scarce. They are in abundance. Thank you guys for watching my video, and do subscribe to Microeconomics.
Scarcity of resources is broken down into four basic problems of the economy. Let's look at each of them separately. Number 1. What to produce? The system must determine the desires of the people. Goods and services must be based on the needs of the consumers. Factors to consider: availability of resources, physical environment, customs and traditions of people. Number 2. How to produce? The system must select the proper combination of economic resources in producing the right amount of output. The production of goods or services needs effective methods and processes. The quality of output must come first before the quantity. Number 3. For whom shall the goods and services be produced? This has something to do with distribution. The society would always consider the immediate beneficiary of the goods. Once goods are produced, how shall they be distributed? This decision is about who will receive the things produced. Are houses for low-income workers, professionals, or the very rich? Think about target audience and who will buy the products. Number 4. What provision, laws should be made for economic growth? The system must use all its resources for current consumption. If a society uses all its resources, then its production capacity will not increase. The society must decide on the part of the resources to be saved for future progress. Causes of these economic problems may due to unemployment. And what are the common causes of unemployment? The number of people entering the job market has been greater than the number of jobs created. The rural-urban migration increases due to employment opportunities, and many of the unemployed individuals are college graduates.
Edward Heath, former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, once said, "Unemployment is of vital importance, particularly to the unemployed." It may seem that most people like to complain about work, but most do see having a job as a much better situation than the alternative, being unemployed. Unemployment doesn't just harm the people who are out of work. Economists warned that it is also harmful to society overall because it represents unused resources. The people who cannot find jobs represent goods and services that are not being produced. To some people, an unemployed person is someone who doesn't have a job, but actually it's more complicated than this. Each month, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, or BLS, polls people who are at least 16 years old about their employment status during that month. The BLS uses the respondents' answers to divide people into three categories. Employed, someone who currently has a job. Out of the labor force, someone who doesn't have a job right now but is not actively looking for a job. Or unemployed, someone who does not have a job right now and is actively looking for a job. To be more exact, the BLS classifies persons as unemployed if they are 16 years or older, do not have a job, have actively looked for work in the previous 4 weeks, and are currently available to work. Here is an example. Chris lost his job due to the recession. He spends his mornings searching online for job openings and his afternoons filling out job applications. Because Chris does not have a job and is actively looking for one, he is considered unemployed. On the other hand, Mark stays home to care for his children. Even though Mark does not have a job, he is not unemployed because he is not actively looking for work. Instead, he is considered to be out of the labor force. Chris is a clear-cut example of someone who is unemployed, and Mark is an equally clear example of someone who is out of the labor force. However, some people's official employment status doesn't tell the whole story. Sometimes it's complicated. Consider the following examples. Josh is a recent graduate looking for a job as an accountant, but he is currently working at Burger Bin to pay the bills until he finds the right job. Even though Josh is actively looking for work, he is not counted as unemployed because he has a job. He is counted as employed. In fact, Josh is considered underemployed, which includes workers who are working part-time but would like to work full-time, or those working in jobs for which they are overqualified. Mako has been unemployed for 6 months. She has given up looking for work until she hears the economy may be turning around. Because Mako is not actively looking for a job, she is considered to be out of the labor force. In fact, because she has given up looking for work, Mako is considered a discouraged worker. You can see that while both Josh and Mako are not happy with their employment situations, neither is counted as unemployed. So calculating the unemployment rate is fairly complicated. After categorizing people into groups based on employment status, the BLS determines the unemployment rate, or the percentage of the nation's labor force that is unemployed. The unemployment rate, considered one of the most important indicators of the health of the economy, is calculated by simply dividing the number of people who are unemployed by the number of people who are in the labor force, and then multiplying by 100 to turn the decimal into a percentage. The annual unemployment rate changes over time as the economy goes through its cycles. The rate has been as high as 25% in 1933 during the Great Depression, and as low as 2.5% in 1953. You can find the current unemployment rate at the BLS website, bls.gov, and also at fred.stlouisfed.org. Economists also divide unemployment into three categories. Let's watch Morgan experience all three types of unemployment. The first type of unemployment is frictional unemployment, which occurs when people take time to find a job. It is the short-term unemployment associated with the process of matching workers with jobs. This might be due to workers quitting one job to find another that is a better fit for their skills or lifestyle. Or perhaps students who have just graduated from college and are looking for their first job. Frictional unemployment always exists because there are always some workers in transition. If you are 16 or older, you would be considered frictionally unemployed this summer when you start looking for a summer job. Morgan experienced frictional unemployment when she finished school and spent 3 weeks looking for a job driving a truck. The second type of unemployment is cyclical unemployment, which is the type that rises during economic downturns and then falls when the economy improves. It is the extra unemployment that occurs during recessions. During a recession, firms can't sell as many goods and services as they had expected. As a result, they must reduce their workforce. Morgan lost her job as a truck driver when the economy went into recession. People bought fewer goods, so the demand for shipping services and therefore truck drivers went down. As the economy grows and adds jobs, cyclical unemployment is reduced. However, not everyone who loses a job during a recession finds the same type of job after the recession. In this case, cyclical unemployment can turn into structural unemployment. Structural unemployment, the third type of unemployment, occurs because of a geographic or skill mismatch between workers and employers. This means workers must either learn new job skills, or they must move to a location where jobs that require their skills are more plentiful. This might require an unemployed construction worker to retrain as a computer technician, or an unemployed auto worker in Michigan to move to Tennessee. As the economy changes over time, some industries fade while others are born and grow rapidly, which means workers need different skills. Think of the entire internet economy that didn't exist until the internet went public in the early 1990s. Now millions of people work in the internet economy. These structural changes in available employment mean that workers must be willing to acquire new knowledge and skills. After looking for work as a truck driver for several months, Morgan realized that she was structurally unemployed and has decided to retrain as a web designer, a job with a promising future. The unemployment rate is one of the most important pieces of economic data that economists study. Now that you know the ins and outs of unemployment, you might appreciate this bit of wisdom. The study of economics won't necessarily keep you out of the unemployment line, but at least if you're there, you'll understand why.
The table shows the Philippines labor force surveys, whose indicators are the following. Population 15 years and over, joined the labor force participation rate, unemployment rate, employment rate, underemployment rate. As you can notice, from the year 2014 to 2019, the unemployment rate increases. What can be done to solve unemployment problem? Number 1, appropriate economic policies for labor-intensive industries. Number 2, improve the educational system of the country, especially in the rural areas. Number 3, minimize rural-urban migration by improving the economic environment in rural area. Number 4, proper coordination between government and the private sector to solve the problem of job mismatch. Number 5, slowing population growth. Philippine growth must increase faster than the population. Limit the size of families. And number 6, provision of more investment opportunities to encourage local and international investments.
ASEAN member nations have diverse economies. offering opportunities for workers to seek better and higher paying jobs abroad. But not everybody can afford to migrate for work, especially low-skilled workers who represent the majority of ASEAN migrants. Jobs abroad can pay many times more than what they earn in their countries. With earnings like that, their families would have a more stable future. Their children can go to school and have better career prospects. This worker wants a better life for her family, but restrictive immigration systems, lengthy procedures, and expensive recruitment costs made her decide not to pursue this opportunity. This low-skilled worker joined millions who cross borders unofficially. As an undocumented worker, he risks deportation, exploitation by employers, and misses out on workplace protections like workmen's compensation and a minimum wage. But it doesn't have to be this way. Better policies can help countries, both those who send and those who receive workers, fully benefit from labor migration. Policy changes can lead to higher economic development and better employment opportunities for sending and receiving countries, and increase wages for migrants and open new opportunities for local workers. For this to happen, sending countries need to balance protections for migrant workers with economic development. They can develop migration management systems that include the oversight of recruitment agencies, streamline exit procedures, and pre-departure orientation programs. Having programs in place for returning workers can help them reintegrate into the labor market. Receiving countries, on the other hand, should work toward developing systems that respond to their labor market demands. Economically, they will benefit from immigration systems that have close collaboration between employers and sending countries, cheaper entry costs, and processes to formalize undocumented migrants. At the same time, they need to ensure that local workers are able to take advantage of new employment opportunities created by migration. In the end, making labor migration easier is a win for all. Workers' welfare improves, sending countries secure better jobs for their citizens, and receiving countries fill positions they need in the labor market, leading to growth in both cases.
Rural to urban migration. What are the push factors and the pull factors of this problem? Push factors of this rural and urban migration: few services, lack of job opportunities, unhappy life, poor transport links, natural disasters, wars, and shortage of food. The pull factors of rural migration: access to services, better job opportunities, more entertainment facilities, better transport links, improved living conditions, hope for a better way of life, and family links. Poverty. What are the common causes of poverty? Increase in population, increase in the cost of living, unemployment, income inequality.
In the Philippines. The Philippines are considered the most disaster-prone country on Earth, including typhoons, earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, floods, garbage landslides, and military action against the Muslims. There are many factors that cause poverty like employment issues and high population growth, but the main factor affecting country's economy and the livelihood of Filipinos is the governance issues such as corruption, which is rampant in the Philippines, and security issues which are prevalent in Mindanao and other poor areas. Entrepreneurs will not be interested in investing money in a place where there is violence, which results to low employment opportunity and a bad economy. According to NAPC, poverty incidence in 201 increased to 25%. Meaning, 1 in 4 Filipinos lives in poverty. The higher count of poor people is because food prices and the result of Super Typhoon Yolanda. So here's the list of 10 provinces in the Philippines that have the highest poverty incidence this year 2019. Number 10. Zamboanga del Norte. Zamboanga del Norte is located in the Zamboanga Peninsula region. From being the poorest province of the Philippines back in 2006, with a poverty incidence rate of 64%, it is now at the 10th spot with 48% poverty incidence. While considered poorest in 2006 and 2009, Zamboanga del Norte managed to improve their economy. It dropped to 5th place in 2012 and then to 10th spot in 2019. Number 9. Western Samar. 3 in every 10 families in Eastern Visayas are poor. Western Samar is another new entry in the list of the poorest provinces in the country, with 43% incidence of poverty. This province has been prone to natural calamities and pests, doubly burdened by the anti-people policies passed by the Duterte's administration and the intensified militarization. In fact, claims of the Duterte and Aquino administrations that the region has already recovered from the ravages of Typhoon Yolanda are believed by the stories of farmers and residents. It was one of the most affected areas by the Super Typhoon Yolanda on 8 November 2013, which damaged the livelihood of the locals. Number 8. Northern Samar. Northern Samar is one of the 3 provinces comprising the island of Samar. Its tourism industry has great potential but remains unknown to most tourists. Based on NAPC's report, it has a poverty incidence of 43.5%, which might be lessened once the tourist attractions of this province become fully utilized, same with Western Samar. In Northern Samar alone, 24 of its municipalities are situated along the coasts, and residents are all fisher folk. Despite all these resources, the farmers of the Eastern Visayas region also have to face the infestation of their crops. Abaca crops are heavily infested with bunchy top virus, BBTV. This has led to the stunted growth of abaca, thus the dwindling amount of abaca produced. It is the main source of livelihood of farmers in Northern Samar. Number 7. Negros Oriental. Based on the results of the latest Family Income and Expenditure Survey of the Philippine Statistics Authority, PSA, Negros Oriental or Eastern Negros is a province of the Philippines located in the southeastern half of the Negros Island region. Despite the fact that it has been an electricity supplier to its neighboring provinces and having a good agricultural land, it still has a poverty incidence rate of 43.9%. Number 6. North Cotabato. North Cotabato is also a part of Sorsogon region and is located in the middle of Mindanao. With a 44.8% rate of poverty incidence, this province is a new member of the poorest provinces in the Philippines. Roman Catholicism is the major religion in this province with Cotabato is considered as Mindanao's food basket. It is a major producer of cereals, tropical fruits, vegetables, sugarcane, coconut, coffee, freshwater fish and livestock. It is also one of the country's leading producers of raw and semi-processed rubber, with markets in Asia and Europe, and industrial trees. Over the last 9 years, Cotabato has graduated from being a basket case to one of the Philippines' most vibrant economies. Still one of the provinces in the poverty line, but Cotabato is slowly making a mark as a province that can offer a positive investment climate and a sound business opportunity to those who choose to put their money here. Before we will give you the next list, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell to see more videos like this. Since we are uploading 1 to 2 videos per week. So guys, let's continue. Number 5. Sarangani. Sarangani is listed among the country's 10 poorest provinces. Sarangani was recently named the country's 6th most competitive province in the recent Cities and Municipalities Competitiveness Index, CMCI, an annual ranking of local governments whose framework focuses on the idea of productivity. Catholicism is the predominant religion in this province, 63% of the population being Roman Catholics. Just like North Cotabato. As a poverty reduction program, it will develop, adopt, and execute strategies to uplift the quality of life in the following areas like social stability, education, health and nutrition, environmental management, disaster resiliency and economic empowerment. Number 4. Maguindanao. Maguindanao is under the Autonomous Region in Muslim Mindanao, ARMM. It is 4th among the poorest provinces in that country, with 54% poverty incidence. This province became one of the most talked about provinces because of the Maguindanao massacre, wherein 58 people were killed, 32 of them are journalists. The Maguindanao massacre, also known as the Ampatuan massacre, after the town where the mass graves were found in the town of Ampatuan in Maguindanao province. According to CPJR Committee to Protect Journalists, has called the Maguindanao massacre as the one of the deadliest event for journalists in history. At least 34 journalists are known to have died in the massacre. Number 3. Apayao. Apayao is part of the Cordillera Administrative Region in Luzon. Apayao is the lone recipient of SAAD or Special Area for Agricultural Development in the Cordillera region. SAAD is a 6-year locally funded project under the Department of Agriculture that focuses development interventions on the most marginalized agricultural and fishery sectors in the country. It also aims to increase food production and reduce poverty in the country. Implementation of the program started in 2017, with Apayao as the first Cordillera province covered. Number 2. Eastern Samar. Eastern Samar is a province of the Philippines located in the eastern Visayas region. It is now the second poorest province in the Philippines with 55.4% poverty incidence. Its main economic resource is agriculture and fishery. The main reason for the increase in poverty level was the destruction caused by Yolanda, and higher inflation rate is also another factor just like other Samar region. Number 1. Lanao del Sur. Violence worsened the poverty in Lanao del Sur. Decades of armed conflict have hampered development in Mindanao, where most of the Philippines' poorest regions are located. The uncertainty caused by the siege in Marawi City would aggravate the poverty situation in Lanao del Sur, which remains as the poorest province in the Philippines. Clashes between government forces and members of the Maoti group forced thousands of families to flee Marawi City in Lanao del Sur. Poverty in Marawi City will most probably worsen, but poverty in the other poorest provinces in Mindanao will not be drastically affected. Investors and businessmen have moved away from the blanket notion that peace and order in the entire Mindanao is worrisome. It will remain to be number 1 among the provinces with the most number of poor families. That's all for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Hey, be sure to give a big thumbs up to this video and share it with your friends. Leave a comment on this video. Question of the day. How will you improve your province economy?
What can be done to solve the poverty problem? Number 1, reduce unemployment. Number 2, appropriate policy on labor income. Number 3, provision of unemployment benefits for those who will be unemployed due to natural or man-made calamities like typhoon, bombing of terrorists, and earthquakes. And number 4, increase social services like education, healthcare, and food subsidies for sustainable poverty reduction. Poor quality of infrastructure. What can be done to improve the quality of infrastructure? Number 1, the government shall implement fiscal reform program. Number 2, continue reform in key sectors, particularly power, roads, and water to improve cost recovery, competition, and institutional credibility, and to sharply reduce corruption. Number 3, improving central oversight of the planning and coordination of investments. And number 4, focus on investments through public-private partnership to achieve faster delivery of service. Income inequality. Income is the money that an individual earned from work or business received from investment. Inequality, the state of not being equal, especially in status, rights, and opportunities. Income inequality refers to the gap in income that exists between the rich and the poor. What are the common causes of income inequality. Number 1, political culture. Palakasan, utang na loob, especially voting for the wrong person during election. Number 2, indirect taxes. Poor people shoulder their taxes like the value-added tax. Number 3, income taxes. The wage of the low-wage workers is increasing while the purchasing power of other people's income decrease, thereby altering equality. What can be done to solve the problem of income inequality? Number 1, policies to enforce progressive rates of direct taxation on high-wage earners and wealthy individuals. Number 2, direct money transfers and subsidized food programs for the urban and rural poor. Number 3, direct government policies to keep the price of basic commodities low. Number 4, raise minimum wage. And number 5, encourage profit sharing. Philippine socioeconomic development. Economic growth slowed in the first half of 2019, driven by a rapid deceleration in investment growth due to contraction in public spending and weaker global economy. Nevertheless, the Philippines expects to sustain progress in poverty reduction. The economy of the Philippines is the world's 36th largest economy by nominal GDP according to the 2019 estimate of the International Monetary Fund's statistics. It is the 13th largest economy in Asia and the third largest economy in the ASEAN after Indonesia and Thailand. The Philippines is one of the emerging markets and is the sixth richest in Southeast Asia by GDP per capita values after the regional countries of Singapore, Brunei, Malaysia, Thailand, and Indonesia. The Philippines is primarily considered a newly industrialized country, which has an economy in transition from one based on agriculture to one based more on services and manufacturing. As of 2017, GDP by purchasing power parity was estimated to be at $1.980 trillion. Primary exports include semiconductors and electronic products, transport equipment, garments, copper products, petroleum products, coconut oil, and fruits. Major trading partners include Japan, China, the United States, Singapore, South Korea, the Netherlands, Hong Kong, Germany, Taiwan, and Thailand. The Philippines has been named as one of the Tiger Cub. It is currently one of Asia's fastest growing economies. However, major problems remain, mainly having to do with alleviating the wide income and growth disparities between the country's different regions and socio-economic classes, reducing corruption, and investing in the infrastructure necessary to ensure future growth. The Philippine economy is projected to be the fifth largest in Asia and 16th biggest in the world by 2050. According to the PricewaterhouseCoopers, it estimates that it will be the 12th to 14th richest economy in the world by 2060. While this opposes other reports from HSBC Holdings plc that by the year 2050, the Philippines will have been stated to surpass the economy of Indonesia due to its yearly higher GDP growth rate of 6.5%, second after China. Historical and future annual GDP growth rates. 1950 to 1959, official rate 6.7%, calculated rate 5.9%. 1960 to 1969, official rate 5.06%, calculated rate 4.7%. 1970 to 1979, official rate 5.79%, calculated rate 5.6%. 1980 to 1989, official rate is 2.01%, calculated rate is 9.9%. 1990 to 1999, 2.75% is the official rate, calculated rate is 3%. 2000 to 2009, official rate is 4.46%, calculated rate is 4.8%. 2010 to 2019, projected rate is 6.36%, calculated rate is 6%. 2020 to 2029, projected rate is 6.8%, calculated rate is 6.5%. 2030 to 2039, projected rate is 6.9%, calculated rate is 6.7%. 2040 to 2049, projected rate is 7.1%, calculated rate is 6.8%. The calculative figures express the change in the rate of creation of real wealth. Let us summarize our topics for today. We have the 4 basic economic problems. What are those? These are what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, and what are the laws and provisions for economic growth. This problem leads to what? We have unemployment, rural to urban migration, poverty, poor quality of infrastructure, and income inequality. The most common solution to these economic problems are slowing population growth, reduce unemployment, focus on investment from public to private partnership, better job opportunities, raise minimum wage, keep the price of commodities low. If all these solutions may come into reality, perhaps we can have our economic growth. Okay, class? Hope you understand our topic for today. God bless and goodbye.